So yes, as Andrea said, we're here for 2024, our first JCP Executive Committee meeting of the year, and take this opportunity to meet with some of our local Java user group members, right? And talk about some of the things that we've been doing in the community over the last few years. And Andreas and the leadership team asked me to share a little bit about what is the JCP and what's been happening. So I'd like to start with this slide. Just you probably are aware that we continue to evolve the Java platform every 6 months, and we moved to a 6-month release cadence about 5 years ago, where we have a new platform release of Java every 6 months. And I know the community was a little bit trepidatious about this move, but as it turns out, we've seen lots of innovations coming into the pipeline, and that's what we're going to bring up Miro to talk about after my talk. We switched the order a little bit, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what is the JCP, what are some of the things that we talk about in the executive committee, and then Miro's going to come up and he'll talk about some of the new features in Java. The Java 22 is available now, and then we'll take a break, and then we're going to have a panel from some of the executive committee members talking about some of the innovations that are being developed in their different companies. And at the end, we brought some t-shirts to celebrate the anniversary of the JCP, 25 years of the JCP. Java's getting ready to celebrate its 30-year anniversary, which is exciting. It's hard to believe that Java's been around for 30 years, but it continues to be one of the #1 development platforms, and the innovation in the platform continues to be very rich, and I believe that is because of some of the fundamentals that the JCP program provides and sets as the platform, and provides the framework for the evolution of the technology, while we continue to focus on performance and stability of the platform, as well as security and compatibility, where the JCP really comes in to ensure that we have compatibility as well as an ecosystem of choices for you as developers, as well as those cool new features that we continue to bring into the platform with our new release cadence of a new platform of Java coming out every 6 months. And what we continue to do is be conservative in the new features that we adopt, but also try to bring in innovations to make the platform more modern, and also to take advantage of some of the new deployment models, as well as hardware architectures coming into the platform. So while we continue to move Java forward, we focus on trust, innovation, and predictability. And increasingly with our release cadence, what we've been able to see is not only is the platform more predictable for customers and users of the technology, so they can be able to plan their migration platforms from plans from one version to the next. We also see that we've continued to see more innovations, so more features coming into the platform more quickly, and for you developers to be able to digest those innovations as well. So where you're not seeing a platform release with 100 new features, you're seeing platform releases with 10 to 15 new features. So you actually have a chance to try out some of those technologies and use them and learn about them, rather than waiting 3 to 4 years and then being overwhelmed with 100 new features in a platform release. And we've continued to see that that is a nice balance of bringing in new features to the platform, while at the same time making it predictable for customers, so they can plan deployments and make it less disruptive for engineering teams. So you know that every 6 months there will be a new release of Java, and every 2 years there'll be a long-term support release of Java. So long-term support being just a matter of the vendors deciding to provide support, but nothing technically different about the different platform releases. So Java 22 is available now. And Java 22 had 9 new feature requests in it. And with this, I'm just going to queue up some of the things that we've seen over the last 5 years that might be interesting to you, that some of our EC members may talk about, and Miro may talk about in his presentation, that's going to deep dive into some of the cool new features that you may or may not be using. Can I just ask, with a show of hands, who here is using, like, for instance, Java 8 in production at your companies?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Who's using like Java 11 or higher? Java 11.
Yeah.
Java 11 or higher.
Somewhere else.
Java 11 or higher. Okay. So like 17 or higher.
Yeah.
21.
21 or higher, because we're at 22 now. Okay, so I would say the majority between 11 and 17 somewhere, right? So what I've also seen with people is oftentimes, even if you've migrated to the new versions, you might not be taking advantage of some of the new features. So I think that's something that I've found really interesting. So even if you've migrated to new versions of the Java platform, you may not be taking some advantage of some of those modern features. So I think Miro's presentation that we'll do right after mine might do a deep dive into some of those, so that you might be able to take advantage of some of those things in terms of productivity and some of the more modern ways that we could do things with Java. So some of those things are Project Amber. So as I said, new features of the Java platform coming every 6 months, but we continue to have those projects in OpenJDK. So I just highlighted like 3 of them, and then I'm going to share what I told you I would talk about, which is what is the JCP and why are we here in Munich for an executive committee meeting tomorrow, hosted by Microdoc. Thanks for hosting us, Microdoc. Okay, so Project Amber is one of them. So Project Amber is a collection of language features. So as we've had this continuous innovation over the last 5 years with new releases coming every 6 months, what you can see coming out of Project Amber are small language improvements, so things like records and pattern matching that will continue to come out of Project Amber. So rather than say we're going to have a project in OpenJDK, Project Amber, we're going to wait until everything that we want to do in this project is finished and then release a new version of the platform. What happens is new language features come out of Project Amber continuously as Java enhancement proposals. And then we also have library improvements coming continuously to the Java platform. And again, things like Project Panama fall into this category. And virtual threads, of course, which I'm sure in the panel will come up and also in Miro's talk. So that's another enhancement that came out of Project Loom. So Project Loom is another feature project coming in OpenJDK, and with Java 21, the release that came out in September, we introduced virtual threads, which is an exciting feature and project. And we continue to have performance improvements, making the platform better. And the other key project that I like to highlight is generational ZGC. So making this the default garbage collector in the platform, and that's JEP 439. That came out also with Java 21. So much of these things come as a result of community programs, and that really, JCP being one of those programs, and that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about, but it's a collection really of community efforts coming together, including groups like yourself, Java user groups around the world coming together, learning about the technology, not just doing it in isolation or even at your company, but coming together and learning about how each of you are implementing the projects in your companies and sharing your experience together. So that's really what the JCP is about, is bringing together the community, and really it's an ecosystem that enables that choice that I talked to you about in terms of the value. So as far as what is the JCP, really the JCP is made up of the community, and why I have, as a small oversight function, we have the executive committee. I'm the chair of the JCP, and we have several executive committee members here in the audience, and I have a small team that helps me to support the program. What executive committee members do we have here? We have 6 or 7, which we'll have a panel later, so I'll bring them up so we can hear more from them. So the executive committee, we meet bi-monthly, face-to-face, twice a year, and we vote on JSRs, and we talk about general topics in the community, but really the bulk of the work is done by the leaders of the specifications and by the community members who are building the implementations. So we have spec leads, we have the JCP membership, we have expert group members, we have contributors. And the main deliverables that come out of the JCP, worked on by the JCP members, are JSRs, which produce a specification, a reference implementation, and a test suite. Everyone's probably heard of a JSR. Everybody who's heard of that term. Is anyone familiar that the work of the Java community process, the main thing that the Java community process does is produce JSRs? Everyone, who's aware? Because I know that Andre has asked me to share a little bit about this, so not everybody's aware. So basically, anybody can join the JCP program. We have members who can join and contribute to an expert group, lead a JSR, vote in the elections, comment and review, and also work in the open source projects, the development of the reference implementation that's done by the expert group. So that's done in OpenJDK. And every JSR creates the specification, which is why Java is so well documented. It also creates the reference implementation, which is the code, the proof of concept of the specification, and then a test suite. And the test suite is really what ensures that we have that choice in implementation. So we'll talk about some of the implementations in our panel. So really the JCP requires that every platform go through this process that the JCP sets forward in terms of proposing a JSR, developing the work, following the rules, having the executive committee vote and ratify the specification, and then releasing it to the community for development and production in your work environments. So membership can be through a partner membership. If your JUG is a member, I know iJUG is a member. I'm not sure if all the individual Java user groups under the iJUG have joined the JCP, but essentially Java user groups can be members of the JCP, and that means that you can help us to spread the word about the JCP. And also we have associate members, which will, Miro, who's going to talk to us next, was a member on the executive committee representing the associates. So that's individual developers and then companies. So key companies that are relying on Java to build their business, or who are vendors who offer compatible implementations of Java. So all of those people come together in the JCP to ensure that we have the platform that you can rely on, that we know is going to be compatible, that is going to provide to you choice, and is going to give you the innovations and the new features that you can rely on. So this is our executive committee. In our last face-to-face hosted by BNY Mellon. So as I said, we're going to meet tomorrow at Microdoc, and we'll have a new picture, but Miro's there along with a lot of folks who are here. BNY Mellon hosted us in September. In our panel, we're going to have each of the members talk about some of their memories as we reflect back on 25 years of the JCP, but also, you know, what are some of their favorite things in terms of the technology and features in Java, and how are they using it within their companies. And we're also going to have Miro talk about some of the new features in Java. And after the break, we also will do a raffle and give out the t-shirts. So with that, should I pause for questions, or should we go into the new features? Any questions about what is the JCP? We're going to get into some of the new features with Miro's talk, and then we're going to take a break and hear from the executive committee members. But any questions about what is the JCP and how does it work, and
What was your motivation to join it?
why would you join the JCP? Well, some people say that it helps to advance your career, so it helps you to learn about what's coming next in the platform. So while there are new releases of the early access versions of the platforms every 2 weeks that come out on OpenJDK, sometimes if you are more involved, you have that motivation to actually follow along in what's coming out. So if you're following along as a member, you have the opportunity to see, like, oh, the new JSR for the new platform's out, and you can find links to the early access builds, but you don't have to be a member to do that. When you're a member, you can actually show yourself as a contributor on the JSR. So a lot of people have said that that helps them to advance their career and help them to be seen as an expert within your company or in the community. So essentially people within your company would be coming to you and saying, oh, I see you're a member of the JCP. Can you tell me about what's coming next down the pipeline? What are some of the new features? So you might be one of the first people that people would think of because you're staying on top of what's coming next in the new version of the platform. And then obviously you have an opportunity to vote in the elections. As a community, a Java user group, if you're a member, you have access to be able to know about some of the working groups that we're doing. So some of the things that we're going to talk about tomorrow, and that I'll talk about with some of the panelists who are participating, is we have a couple of working groups. One of them is Java in education. I actually had a slide about that. So Java in education, how to bring new, younger members into your community so that you have that next generation of Java developers, so you can be trained on how to deliver some of those talks about some of the new features in Java, as well as talk to students about what is it like to be a Java developer. So in industry, do you spend all your time coding, or what are some of the other skills that you need to know about? So you have the opportunity to participate in that. And then we also have another working group, which is talking about how to bring the library, open source maintainers of libraries up to speed with that new release cadence. So how do we influence the ecosystem to also come along and start migrating to their projects to the newer versions of Java, so you can also get involved in how to participate in those kinds of programs. But did you want to say something, Miro? You were like looking like you want to say something about that.
Okay, so maybe, so I mean, the membership of JCP gives you access to the information. So aside of it, so you get the opportunity to contribute to the mailing list, you get the right to write a message, and as Heather said, you get access to the working groups. I know it may look harder if you check a website to find the proper working group, but so if you would love to more be involved in Java, for example, become a committer or just the author, there is a description what you need to achieve in order to become one. To be more involved, like you publish your pull request or merge request into the JVM itself. So it helps you essentially with this. And I think this is implicitly then the career step. So if you would love to contribute to Java ecosystem, I think it's a good flag.
Yeah, it definitely is not a mandatory. It's not like we say even every Java developer should become a member, but I definitely think that what makes Java special and unique, and what makes it one of the most used languages and platforms, is that we bring in the community feedback. So even if you don't decide to join the JCP, and you don't need to, everyone can download early access versions of the platform and try it on your applications and give feedback. And that's really what makes it better, having that real world feedback before it's released into a final deliverable. So having people try it out, and you don't have to be a member to do that. Some people like to be a member. It gives them certain rights. You can vote in the elections, and you can contribute to some of the mailing lists and things like that, but it's definitely not a requirement. But it is open and accessible, and that's one of the things that we worked really hard to achieve, was making sure that everything is transparent, and if a developer wants to get more engaged, there is a pathway to do that. And so it's one of the ways to get more involved in the community. Okay, so with that, we'll transition over to Miro, and he'll give you an overview on some of the new features, and then I'll come back up after the break, and we'll hear from some of our executive committee members.